She remembers everything, except the one thing that could save her life. A neuroscience student with total recall witnesses a brutal crime, but when the details start to vanish from her memory, she realizes someone is rewriting her mind. Is she losing her grip, or is someone making sure she never remembers what really happened? This is Tell Me What I Saw. If you love psychological thrillers, twisted timelines, and unreliable memories, hit subscribe and let's dive in. Enjoy!
I remember everything. Not in the way people say they do, fuzzy Polaroids of birthdays or songs from the radio. I mean everything. Every meal, every conversation, every raindrop on the sidewalk outside my window the night I turned 14. My name is Lila Rowe, and I have hyperthymesia, total autobiographical recall. There's no cinematic flash, no montage. It's just there, like a wall of windows in my head. Any date, any time, I look inward and I see it, feel it sometimes. That's how I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into that alley. It was past midnight. I'd stayed late at the neurolab, lost in code and protein data. I took the shortcut behind the lecture halls, the alley with the busted lamp and old vending machines nobody restocked anymore. And then I saw it. The first thing that registered was the color red. A jacket, bright, too bright for that shadowed space. Then movement, fast, chaotic. A man pulling away from another figure, a blade in his hand. A sound I can't describe. Not a scream, not a sub, somewhere between. The victim fell. Their face turned just enough to catch the light, and that's when I froze. Because I knew them, or thought I did. Then the man in the red jacket turned toward me. I didn't see his face clearly, just his eyes, sharp, pale. And he said, clear as anything, "You weren't supposed to be here." Then he ran. I called the police with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking, gave them the time, the place, the color of the jacket, the knife, everything. They arrived fast, yellow tape, flashlights, a tech who asked me to sit on the curb and breathe. The detective, Merritt, asked questions like she was trying to pull wire from my head. But I had the answers. I always had the answers. Red jacket, mid-20s, male, 5'10", clean-shaven. The victim gasped my name. Lila. That stopped Merritt, for just a second. But I was sure. I remembered it. Every second of it. Until the next morning, when they showed me the security footage from the loading dock. I watched the screen in Merritt's office. Time code, 12:41 a.m. to 12:43 a.m. It showed me walking past the alley, stopping, looking in, backing away. But nothing else. No man in red, no victim, no violence. Just me, alone. I went home. I opened my journal where I write everything, every night without fail. The entry for last night was missing. Not torn out, not erased, just blank. My heart skipped, because that's never happened before. Detective Merritt showed up at my door less than 12 hours later. She didn't knock like a cop, just firm enough to be serious, soft enough to seem polite. I opened the door and tried not to let her see how little I'd slept. "Miss Rowe," she said, eyes scanning my face like she expected something to change since last night. "Mind if I come in?" I stepped aside. We sat at the tiny kitchen table I'd turned into a study station. My laptop was open, paused on a research paper I wasn't reading. My tea was cold. Merritt placed her phone face down, like she wanted my full attention. "We've reviewed every angle of footage," she said. "Loading docks, maintenance hallway, even the quad. There's no sign of the man you described." I kept my face still. "Then he avoided the cameras." "Maybe, but here's what I don't understand." She leaned forward slightly, voice low. "Why did the victim say your name?" I didn't have an answer. "I don't know them," I said, but it didn't feel solid coming out of my mouth. "Not that I remember." She raised a brow. "But you remember everything. That's what the officer wrote down. Hyperthymesia, right?" I nodded slowly. "Then this stands out even more. No record of you ever interacting with the victim, on or off campus. But when we found his ID," she slid a photo across the table. My stomach dropped. Ethan Vale. The name rang faintly, like an out-of-key piano string. Not a memory, more like the shape of one. Something I should remember. A face from a lecture hall, maybe? A whisper at the edge of a dream. "I'm sorry," I said. "It doesn't help. I still don't know him." Merritt held my gaze for a moment, like she didn't believe me, or worse, like she thought I was trying to believe myself. She stood. "If anything comes back to you, even something small, call me." She tapped her card on the table. "Especially if it's about that jacket." I watched her leave, then closed the door too fast, locked it. I returned to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I kept my journals, stacked neatly, labeled by month. I pulled out the current one and flipped to the entry for the night before the attack, October 13. It was there, my usual writing, routine, detailed, but then October 14, still blank. I traced the page with my fingers. It wasn't torn out. The paper was pristine, crisp, and yet, as I tilted the page under the light, a faint indent shimmered into view. A single sentence, pressed lightly, as if written and then erased from thought as well as ink. I backed away. My knees hit the bed, because I recognized the handwriting. It was mine. I held the journal page up to the window, the sunlight cutting through the indent like it was etched into my skin. "Don't trust what you saw. You wanted to forget." Not written in pencil, not visible under normal light, just pressure, muscle memory, like I'd tried to erase not just the words, but the act of writing them. But I didn't remember writing it. And that's what terrified me most, because I always remember. I didn't go to class. I didn't shower. I just sat on the floor with a stack of my old notebooks, flipping through each date like I was chasing a ghost that might have been me. I found nothing out of place until I hit March 17th, an entry that looked fine at first, boring even. Study group, caffeine crash, lab shift, rain. But as I reread it, something stuck. I met with Dr. Drexel. She asked about suppression thresholds, said I'd make an ideal test case. I read it again. I had no memory of that meeting. Dr. Anya Drexel was head of the Behavioral Neuroscience Lab, a legend in memory research, controversial, unapologetic, brilliant. I remembered her giving guest lectures. I remembered admiring her. But I didn't remember this conversation. And the line about being a test case? That wasn't casual. That was clinical. I took the long way across campus, hoodie up, sunglasses on. The lab was on the 4th floor of the older sciences building, the one with no working elevators and too many locked doors. I punched in the keypad outside the research suite. Red light. Denied. I tried again. Still red. Then I turned around to leave and stopped cold. Cassian Shore was standing at the end of the hall. Same rumpled lab coat, same dark eyes that always looked like they were focusing just behind your shoulder. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Hey," he said, "it's been a while." My mouth went dry. "Cassian," I said, "I didn't know you were still in Drexel's lab." "I never left." "You were in the trial, weren't you?" He tilted his head. "So were you." There it was. No pretending, no evasion. "You remember it?" "More than you do, apparently." Something shifted behind his eyes when he said it. A flicker of pity or something colder. I took a breath. Was I part of an experiment? He stepped closer, slow. "You volunteered. You signed every form. You knew what it could cost." I shook my head. I would have remembered. "No," he said quietly, "you wouldn't." I turned and walked away before he could say anything else. Halfway down the stairs, I realized I was shaking. Because part of me believed him, and that part had my handwriting. I waited outside the lab until after dark. Security badge access logs said Drexel usually left by 7, but tonight the lights were still on at 9:18 p.m. I stood behind a vending machine with my hoodie up, half watching the door, half daring myself to leave. Then it opened. She stepped out, coat in one hand, phone in the other, muttering to whoever was on the line. I caught the words neurochemical dissociation and she might be remembering too fast. By the time she turned the corner, I was already in the lab. It wasn't like I remembered. There were new machines, new wires, a padded chair in the center of the room with restraints still dangling. The lights flickered like they hadn't been replaced in years. I found the archive terminal behind a sliding panel. No password required. Drexel had always believed in physical security over digital. I searched. Layla Rowe. Nothing. I tried row L and subject 1123. Still nothing. But then I noticed a tab at the bottom. Inactive, purged. I clicked it. There it was. Trial subject 14-B, row Layla. Status withdrawn. Memory suppression order requested. Signed by C. Shore. I opened the document. Every field was blacked out, redacted, except for one phrase at the top. Patient experienced trauma-adjacent encoding failure. Subject requested non-disclosure and emotional pruning. I sat back hard. That wasn't me. I would never sign off on memory suppression, not when memory was all I had. But if I had really been through something so destabilizing I'd begged to forget it, then what the hell did I see in that alley? I printed the record and slipped it under my shirt. Then I checked the timestamp. The trial entry was logged on March 18th, the day after the meeting I didn't remember writing about. The same week Ethan Vale was officially reported missing for 3 days, before he resurfaced with no memory of where he'd been. Outside the building, my phone buzzed. Blocked number, 1 ring, then voicemail. I played it. Same male voice, soft, deliberate. The memory isn't lost. It's waiting. I didn't go home. Instead, I walked 2 miles to the 24-hour diner near the edge of campus and sat in the back booth nursing a lukewarm coffee until the sky began to lighten. Cassian's name haunted the redacted file like a watermark, signed by C. Shore, not Drexel, not some faceless admin, Cassian. That night in the alley, the voice that said, "You weren't supposed to be here." I kept hearing it, like it was behind me now, saying it again and again. You weren't supposed to be here. You weren't supposed to remember. At 6:12 a.m., I got a ping, a photo, no sender, just a single image. Me in the lab last night. The timestamp, 9:23 p.m. I hadn't seen anyone, but someone had seen me, and they had my number. I didn't go to class that day. I spent it in the library archives, cross-referencing every student who had been in Drexel's trial cohort. Most were names I recognized. A few I didn't. But one stood out. Ethan Vale, trial participant, listed as subject discontinued due to adverse reaction. No other details. There was a folder, but it had been pulled by Cassian. Date of access, 3 days ago. Back at the house, I laid out every drawing I'd done in the past 6 months. At first, they looked like noise. Faces, spaces, water, a staircase I didn't recognize, a door with a broken knob. Then I saw it, a recurring shape, barely there, hidden in the margins, inverted, always in shadow. A spiral, winding inward, same direction, every time. I flipped through my older journals looking for more, and there, on the inside cover of March, was a post-it, faded, curled at the edges, written in my handwriting. If you're reading this, it means you went back. Do not trust Cassian, and do not go to the stairwell. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I called Merritt. She didn't answer, but I left a message. I think I know who the killer is, but I don't know what I did. I didn't remember falling for Ethan Vale, but that didn't mean I hadn't. The records were gone, but people weren't. I found one of Ethan's old lab partners, someone named Jules, who was always 2 questions ahead in class but never said a word aloud. I cornered him after a neuroimaging lecture and said, "You worked with Ethan. Tell me what he was like." He gave me a look I couldn't read. "You were with him," Jules said. "You should know better than anyone." My blood chilled. "No," I said, "I wasn't." He blinked, confused. "You were inseparable last spring. Everyone thought you two were—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I walked away before my legs gave out. I returned to my journal, March 12, the day Jules mentioned. Blank. I checked March 13 and 14. Nothing. And then I remembered something else. The spiral. It wasn't just in my drawings. It was the symbol on the access badge to the lower lab wing, the one Drexel said was being renovated, the one with the emergency stairwell Cassian once warned me was never up to code, the stairwell I was told never to use, the one my note said to stay away from. I didn't listen. It took me 40 minutes to get past the locked maintenance hall. I wedged a rubber doorstop between the hinges, waited for the janitor to pass, then slipped through. The lower lab wing was colder than the rest of the building. No ambient noise, no flicker of computers, just silence and something that smelled faintly like old bleach. At the end of the hall was the stairwell. The door was ajar, And inside, taped to the wall beneath the landing, a photo. A still frame from a surveillance feed. Me, Ethan, Cassian, and a date in red pen, March 15, the day Ethan went missing. I stared at the photo for a long time, like it would unlock something if I stared hard enough. Then I heard footsteps. Soft, careful, deliberate. I turned too late. Cassian stepped into the stairwell, eyes unreadable. "I told you not to come down here," he said. I backed away. Cassian didn't move. Behind him, the stairwell door creaked slowly shut. "You wanted this," he said. "You wanted to know. I wanted the truth." "You think memory is truth?" He gave a soft laugh. "It's just a story your brain tells you, one you agreed to rewrite." I looked past him, at the photo on the wall. "You drugged me? You signed the release," he said. "You begged us to help you forget." "Help me forget what?" He held up a small object, a voice recorder. "I'll show you." The room at the bottom of the stairs looked like a lab that had been abandoned mid-experiment. Monitors unplugged, chairs overturned, a single red light blinking from the corner. Cassian powered up a terminal. He entered a code. Subject 14B. My file. There was video. I stepped closer. The footage loaded. There I was, slouched in the padded chair, same as the one upstairs, wires at my temples, eyes half open, and speaking. It wasn't an accident. My own voice. I pushed him. I didn't mean to, but I liked how it felt. The silence after. I shook my head. "No." Cassian paused the video. "You wanted to forget that part. You came to me. You said you couldn't live with it." "That's not true," I said. "That's not me." But it was my voice. It was my face. Cassian stepped forward. "You were in love with him. You wanted control back. You don't remember because you chose not to." I stared at the screen. And then I saw it. A detail in the background of the footage. A clock. But the timestamp didn't match. It was off. By 3 hours. Cassian saw me looking. I turned to him. "You edited this." He didn't answer. I stepped back slowly, toward the door. My phone was still recording. Cassian looked at it, then looked at me. "What now?" he asked. I didn't say anything, just kept recording. I didn't sleep. I walked straight from the lab to the police station, the recorder clutched in my pocket like it was on fire. The woman at the desk asked me who I was there to see. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, Detective Merritt opened the door. Her eyes took one look at my face and waved me inside without a word. I placed the recorder on her desk. "I have something you need to hear," I said. She listened. She rewound. Listened again. "This is Cassian?" she asked. I nodded. Her face was unreadable, but something shifted in her posture, like she'd been waiting for a piece that finally fit the wrong puzzle. "We need a statement," she said. I gave it. Every detail, every memory I had, and every one I now knew had been taken from me. They took Cassian in the next morning, not for the murder, but for evidence tampering, unethical experimentation, and obstruction. That was enough for now. The murder was still murky. I told Merritt everything, what I remembered, what I saw, what I forgot, what I wrote to myself. That Ethan and I had history, that I'd been part of the trial, that maybe I had pushed him, that maybe Cassian had helped me forget, or helped me build a version of events I could live with. The thing that scared me most wasn't whether I was guilty. It was that I didn't know which memory was mine. I sit now at my desk, journal open, 2 entries side by side. One is blank, the other is new, today's. I wrote everything down, exactly as it happened. Then I tore the page out, folded it, and slid it into the envelope I addressed to myself 6 months from now. Inside, I wrote, "If you're reading this, it means the memory came back. Don't let him take it again, even if it hurts, especially then." I look at the mirror across the room. I meet my own eyes, and I say out loud, "I saw it, and I remember."